All right. We have about 2 or 3 after, but everybody was very prompt tonight. We're all got about 16 participants, which is usually the number we have. We do have at least one member who's unavailable to make it tonight, which is okay. We'll move on without him, and I'm going to follow up with him after the call. That's Brad from Team 3. So tonight, thanks for everybody for coming. Just give me a sound check. Somebody give me a thumbs up. Make sure you can hear me all right. You can see my screen. Memphis Scipreneur Challenge 2021.
Good and good.
Good and good. Great. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to start doing our pitch practice. I have talked to a few of you, and I mentioned it last week. Also, in the follow-up email, we're going to walk through each one of your pitches. We're going to try to spend about 10 to 15 minutes per team. It's encouraged that you all pay attention while other teams are going, because the feedback that you see from them, you might also take to your advantage as well. And some things I'll just refer back to, hey, remember when I said that 5 minutes ago? Same thing here. So it's encouraged that everyone kind of pays attention to everyone else. Walk through, we'll see how these things go. One thing changed that I mentioned in the email yesterday, instead of doing office hours tomorrow, it's Good Friday. We're just going to go ahead and kill that day as far as availability goes. Everybody have an enjoyable Easter weekend. Between the Monday and Thursday of next week in the next session, we'd like to offer ourselves, Shelby and I in particular, to schedule one-on-one times with each one of the teams, if you so choose, where we can walk through even more with greater detail over a longer period of time each one of your pitches. And we'll do that again after this coming Thursday. So a week from this Thursday, we'll do it again between week 8 and week 9, which is the final pitch, which we're only a few weeks away from. So everyone should be getting pretty excited. 15 days, and that's no April Fool's joke. We're 14 days away from doing the final pitches. As you know, the announcement went out, and that email to column had hundreds of email addresses in it. We also distributed that to all the chairs and deans and the president of CBU. So that's going to be, moving through that area as well. So hopefully we'll have a lot of participants in the audience for next Thursday or 2 Thursdays from now, the final pitch. We're really looking forward to it. So just quickly tonight, what we're going to go over is the pitch competition, or the pitch. We'll walk through each team's pitch. We'll go over the skipped elements that we talked about last week, or skipped over last week, and then we'll finish up with a Q&A with time permitting. From here, I'd like to just go ahead and jump in. We got about 5 or 6 minutes after the hour. I want to try to maximize our time. So if there's not any further questions about what we're going to do tonight, let's go ahead and get started with our first team, of which I can go 1 through 6, 6 through 1. I can do random, or someone can volunteer.
And Brian, I just want to add, for teams that maybe haven't completely polished their pitch yet or put together what they want to say on each slide, I would still highly recommend that we walk through each of the slides that they want to present, even if they don't have something planned on what they want to say yet. I think it could be beneficial for everyone on the team.
Yeah, that's completely accurate, Ryan. Great comments. Tonight is a casual walkthrough. We're not grading, and we are going to be very constructive in our feedback. It might get still constructive, but more, nitpicky as we move along. But tonight, it's going to be a lot of generalized feedback just to help you get to the next phase of your pitch. So yeah, it's just a kind of a casual walkthrough tonight. But as Ryan did say, no matter what you have, we want to see it tonight to see where you're at. I talked to another team earlier today through email, or maybe it's last night through email as well, is if you're not already kind of writing out your script on how you want to present the narrative that goes along with the deck, you should be doing so soon. That's something it's going to take you a couple of weeks to really refine and get right. And the quicker you do the script and the quicker you do the deck, you can start practicing both and getting the timing right on what you're presenting compared to, or as in relation to what's shown in the deck that you're presenting from. So if you haven't already started working on your script, you need to do that as well. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to stop sharing this little agenda here in hopes that someone will volunteer quickly, and then I'll hand over sharing to that individual. Who's up?
Hey, hi Brian. Pandurang here from Team One. I can share my screen.
Great. Let me share it with you. Let me find you first. All right. Making you co-host now.
Okay. Let me try.
While you're getting that up, Ryan, can you confirm how many minutes each team will have in the final pitch, and then also the QA, or Erica?
It's going to be 10 minutes total. That includes Q&A, and I wouldn't say that's a hard deadline. I mean, we allow like plus or minus 30 seconds to a minute, but try to keep your pitch around 7 minutes and allow for at least 3 minutes of Q&A.
Great.
But if you get done sooner, you open it up for more Q&A too, longer time there. So it's if you can get everything you need to say in 5-6 minutes, that's fine too.
So no minimum, but aim for a maximum of 7 minutes for your presentation, so we can allow for 3 or so minutes for Q&A. That's always the best time to hear feedback from the panel.
Yep.
I guess I have some sharing settings to be configured. So if anybody else from some other team is willing to volunteer, meanwhile I can fix my settings here.
Okay, let's move on to whatever team was thinking they were going to go second. All right, let's just keep with hits. What? Did somebody say something?
Yeah, sure. I can go ahead and share one.
Okay. What?
I do want to.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I did talk with Shelby, who gave me some solid advice on how to progress, but I've my slides are very much in the outline stage, so there's a lot of work to be done. So I have a lot of thoughts in terms of what I need to put in there, but I think there's a lot of stuff that I know what I need to add, but just want to throw that caveat out there.
Great. Yeah, I just made you co-host, Ron. So.
Oh, perfect.
Show us what you have. What team are you on, Ron?
Team 6.
Okay.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah, I can. True tummy time. And we're going to just go slide by slide to make it easier. So start presenting, and then we'll give you feedback along the way.
Sounds good. The problem. A lack of prone play or tummy time in infants can negatively affect motor development and also can cause and worsen flat spots on the head. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends at least 30 minutes of tummy time per day. In a study of infants, of 135 parents, 53% reported that they received less than 30 minutes of tummy time per day, and 35% were intolerant of the position.
Just keep going.
All right. Talking about the market. New parents spend up to $9,000 on baby-related products in the first year alone. 13% of single babies and 56% of twins are born with partially flattened heads. You can see in the picture on the right, these flattened spots occur and can develop and worsen if babies do not spend time in the prone position. Our solution, the true tummy time wedge solution, it consists of 2 form-fitting wedges of different sizes. These wedges are molded to fit the shape of the body. It also includes a play wedge with interactive multi-sensory toys. The unique value of our wedge system is this molded design shifts the weight to the hips. This avoids pinch points that other products on the market have. This included play wedge with multi-sensory toys encourages babies to stay in the prone position and enjoy this position. This wedge system also includes different sizes to help grow as the baby grows and accommodate it through its first 12 months. Now, to compare our product to the competition, we can see there are a number of factors in which our product compares favorably with other products on the market. Specifically, the full body support that our product has is absent in any of the other competing products. And the pinch points that exist on all the other existing products in the market right now is absent with our molded wedge system. Also, the fact that none of the other products on the market have any research or research-supported evidence to support their claims in improving tummy time is one of the reasons that our product is superior to the others on the market. Our progress so far has been developing and designing a prototype, getting funding for an initial study of 25 participants, and getting approval for the study. And we're now in the process of recruiting and carrying out the study for this product. Our team consists of Dr. Ann Zachary, as Associate Professor, Chair of the UTHC Department of Occupational Therapy. She's a pediatric occupational therapist for over 20 years. And me, Rohan Isaac. Thank you. That's our tummy time solution.
All right, you get A+ for the cute picture of the kid there, for sure.
That was definitely a Shelby suggestion.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go up to the front. Let's go to the top of the deck.
Yep, that sounds good.
All right. So what I'd like to do is we're going to walk through kind of again each slide, and I'm going to open it up for Shelby and Ryan and Erica to give any feedback for each one of these slides along the way, and I'll lead off. So opening slide, make sure it's more than just true tummy time. Although I do like that design look right there. Just all the white space is definitely too much white space. But pick your design, and I think you haven't really picked the background design yet, so I can understand that. But I do like the true tummy time. I think that's kind of
okay. All right. Kind of
elegant looking. All right, go to the next slide, and then we'll go each slide for this and let everyone comment. I thought this was a good slide. And this is for you and for everyone. This is what we call the first of the hooks that you're going to throw out there and try to capture your audience, right? You need to make sure that this is conveying and compelling them to believe that this is a big, hairy problem, something that needs to be met in the marketplace by your solution. And that's really how you're going to establish that. So when I hear the problem and I don't feel emotional about it, then I'm going to probably lose interest along the way. If you haven't hooked me here, maybe when you get to numbers, maybe when you get to impact, you might hook me a little bit, but I've already kind of maybe even stopped listening a little bit if it's just kind of a generic regurgitation of the facts. Now today, Rohan, this is exactly what we asked you to do, is just read it to us and go through it. This is more advice as we move forward when you're building out your script and practicing, is that this is the area, right? This is the area when you kind of throw up that first hook. And so I thought the information on this slide was really good. And I think you are able to talk a little bit more about maybe even the social impact or the emotional impact of the parent with the child concerned over natural development, physically of the child, something to kind of convey something dire, but something that's serious, some sort of big problem. And then you kind of talk about that in the next slide, and there's a comment I want to make about that as well. But first of all, here I think it's good information, but I make sure you try to make this as compelling as possible when you're presenting this down the road.
To have some sort of an emotional appeal in the slide as well.
Yeah, Rohan, and a really easy way to do that is just give the baby a name.
This is
call him like Oliver or something.
Oliver's a great name.
Sounds good.
Jake
Oliver
was
it
what
is.
popped in my head, but Oliver.
Little Rohan.
Or little Rohan.
I would actually say that if you've ever seen a baby who has flat spots, you use a really cute picture, like Brian said, but it's actually not the picture of what the baby looks like when they have problems because of the lack of tummy time. So I would even suggest using something that people can actually see what that problem looks like. I mean, these kids have those helmets that they have to go around. Those are things that I think really, without even any words, would give you some kind of information what the problem is. So.
Yeah. I agree with that totally.
All right, thanks. That's extremely helpful.
Shelby, I know you've already worked with Rohan. Do you have anything to add?
You guys said everything I would have said, especially Erica with the picture of the child. I think that one that would be more effective here would be one that shows the problem itself, especially for people like we talked about, Rohan, that are more visual than auditory.
Sounds good. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And these slides typically have a lot of numbers, like, because you're talking about the scope of the problem. So sometimes there are percentages and dollar signs and stuff like that. So I am the person who will try to read a slide because there's information on there, even though you're not even hitting those points yet. So again, we know that you're just kind of like going through the slides, but maybe like how you'll highlight something and maybe the other material might not necessarily be there until you hit that point, and then that comes up. Because otherwise you'll get people reading the slide and not necessarily listening to what you're saying.
Absolutely, that makes sense.
Yeah. And also, I think the last two bullets, see, 50% of reported infants receive 30 minutes tummy time per day. So it's a study in 135. Okay, this is just basically saying what on average, out of 135 parents, 53% reported that their child is less than 30 minutes of tummy time per day.
Yeah. So they're not getting, yeah.
They're not.
I guess maybe the 2
tummy
points.
time.
Exactly. I think the 2 points I was trying to make is that not only are either people not aware or not enforcing their tummy time recommendations, which is point one. So it's kind of, that first number encompasses both of those facts, that either they're not aware at all of tummy time recommendations or they're just not able to enforce it. And the second point I was trying to bring up is just the uncomfortableness of this position, is that it's not a natural position, I guess maybe not naturally comfortable, because they're developing these new muscles. So we have to have some sort of motivation.
I think that's what you just said in those two bullets is probably better than what the words are used in these two bullets, right? I mean, you kind of talk about the problem, and I think, and this goes for everybody, we talk about obstacles and everything else, but awareness of the problem is often an obstacle, right? If you don't know it's a problem, you don't know that you need a solution. That doesn't mean it's not a problem. It just means you're unaware of the solution. So here we need to make sure that we also can talk about what you just said. There are issues related to just the overall, the overall absence of information in the market to allow parents to understand that this fix is in their hands, right? They can do this with the right products and the right process and everything else. You don't want to talk about solution too much, but you definitely want to talk about how awareness might be a problem that precipitates this issue.
Okay, all right.
Okay, let's go on to the next. Oh, and by the way, always, if you can, cite things like from American Academy of Pediatrics or NIH or whatever it is, the AMA. These are always great things to mention and refer to, because it validates the information you're talking about. So I like that.
Okay, all right. And so, but for something like the study, there's no need to sort of formally reference.
Small study. It's such a small study that I'm concerned that it's not that impactful, and it's just its sampling size. Doesn't mean you can't refer to a study, and kind of, like I said, refer to the study, give roundabout numbers, not lie, not mislead, just, majority or a third or, in a recent study. It is a recent study, it's just sampling size is a little low. So you don't want to get that. You don't want that to get in your way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that a little more than half of infants don't receive the amount of time that they're supposed to have on their tummy. And really, whether it's 135 or 1,000 patients, like, you could just sum it up and just saying, a little more than half actually aren't receiving the time that they need. So
okay, all right. I guess the two things are just like about half or about a third. So I guess those are really kind of the.
I like the way Eric just said it. Half of them, blah blah blah, and then a third of them are also intolerant to the position. So that's a good way to kind of summarize that.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Just keep it very general.
Good suggestion, Erica.
All right,
let's move on to market and customer. Okay, so new parents spend up to $9,000 on baby-related products in the first year alone. 13% of single babies and 56% of twins are born with partially flattened head. I don't. The first bullet kind of discusses what the average parent does spend on their kids, and this seems low if I remember back to my 3. But that's not as relevant, I don't think, to what we're talking
Diapers are $9,000 alone.
Yeah, I mean, that might have been a month or 2 of diapers, if I remember correctly. But it's not as relevant to the problem. The second bullet, I think you need to expand upon. I mean, that's really where we're talking about the size of the problem. So 13% of single babies. I mean, I want to know how many babies are born in the United States every year and what 13% is, right?
Okay, all right. Just sort of give that number some weight.
Right, and how many twins are born a year and get that number, right? I mean, because, and this is not a problem, Ron. I mean, this happens a lot, but if you're going to choose the small number over the big number, let's choose the big number. Right, because it's just going to appear to be more of a problem.
Makes sense.
56% of twins is a major problem, and 13% is still statistically significant. So very significant. So, let's show the numbers here. And then here on the image, this is what we're talking about. And I was writing notes, so I didn't actually get to see the slide, although I heard you. Images like this are, don't be afraid to show the issue, the problem. I mean, we're talking about a poor infant's, head that can be fixed with tummy time and all these different things. Other areas like the Kaizen wound dressing and everything else show gaping wounds, not too grotesque, but, things that are infectious and, in nature at the time. So don't be afraid to show the nastier side of your problem within reason. You don't want to scare off and disgust your entire audience. But if they're not seeing the problem, and I would say this image is even too subtle, right? Not seeing the problem, then they're not.
This one's not bad.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
This one's he's working on being almost normal. This guy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. So show us a few or one.
Okay, all right. Just to get some sort of, again, the emotional tug, I guess, is the idea as well, just to kind of.
And then the last thing I'll say is, again, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this, and I'll probably say this a few more times. I'm not saying for you to be emotional about your slide deck. We want everybody, would rather see someone very professional give a slide, but you do want to pause for effect. You do want to set the stage for what you're talking about. You want to almost leave, a breath of seconds after each slide or each major statement in order to leave those pauses for effect. And with the problem, and then going into this, these are areas where you're going to want to, highlight that through a little bit of emotion.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I would also add, you could weave into your problem in your market slide the burden cost of having a flat head. Like, how much does that cost parents to, care and treat for their kids over the next several years of their life? Because that's really, what you're trying to eliminate or bring down.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if that's an easy number to find, but
I think it's easy enough to make at least a decent estimate of that.
Yeah, I think that's more important than what you put, like the number of the 9,000 is.
Okay, the burden cost.
I think the burden of the problem is this gives more of the scope of the problem than just like, this is how much parents will spend. I'm assuming you're relating that to this is who you're going to target, or these parents that are willing to spend that much, like maybe that's what it's getting at, but it doesn't really tell me like really the dollar sign that's associated with the scope of the problem. But I was going to ask you, okay, so without the words that you have on the slide, tell me who your market is.
Parents of new babies, parents of infants is the market, and especially more specifically, parents of infants that have been pre-exposed to any of the conditions that increase their chances. So, for example, if they've had, a troublesome birth, or are twins, for example, I guess there are some factors that increase their chances of being more susceptible to flatheads. But I guess more generally, it's just parents of children. I guess they'll probably mostly skew demographics of, mothers. And
Rohan, your market when it comes to babies, could be everyone, because everyone knows somebody who's having a kid, and somebody could buy them a gift.
Okay, all right.
Tummy time, Matt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's limited to just people with kids.
Okay, all
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I want, like, your market that you're explaining right now is not necessarily spelled out in these 2 points that you put on the slide. So maybe clean
Okay.
that up. And then without looking, then your customer, is your customer the same as the people that you're describing as your market? Does it encompass more than just those people? Like, that's the other thing I'm not getting from the slide either specifically.
Okay, and so when we did those examples of the, we wrote out our ideal customer. I guess, should we try to work that into this sort of slide? So when, we worked out, I have an example baby of, Ben's a baby who was born as a twin to his parents, and his parents are looking for a product online. When we sort of made that example, should we try to work that into this kind of slide?
Yeah, you could start working that in at the first slide.
Okay.
Going back
all
to
right.
what Ryan was talking about, meet Ben, in this case, Oliver or whatever.
Oliver, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Or
Customer.
show twins, I mean, if it's more
Yeah.
prevalent in twins, show twins.
All right.
All right, for sake of
Sounds
time,
good.
we need to move forward. So go to solution.
Yeah.
Okay, two form footing wedges, different sizes. Please play wedge.
Yeah, I was just trying to summarize the product here, just key features.
Yeah. Can we see, again, imagery of the babies laying on, I don't know if you have any babies laying around, but one that you could
Nah.
put laying around
Yeah.
on tummy time would be good here. It shows
Okay, all right. I'll probably look into that. Yeah, I don't have immediate access to babies, but I'll see what I can do.
Photoshop maybe could be considered.
Yeah.
Just plop that little baby right on top of that. Ben or Oliver or Bolivar, whatever you want to call them. And just make sure you highlight the features. We're not going to talk about values, but highlight the features on this slide. If you can, if you can make any qualitative or quantitative statements here, how the solution truly matches to the problem, try to do so. I'm not sure you're going to be able to do that with this, but
when you say quantitative, sorry, continue.
No, it's just I'll answer your question. From what I'm saying is like, if 30 minutes on tummy time a day take care of the recommended from the American Academy of Pediatrics, this makes it pleasurable. Some sort of maybe statement that's not quantitative in any way, but referring back to the minutes on time, or you can see how 30 minutes on this thing, with the wedges, however you want to kind of present it, you need to make sure that you're drawing a conclusion that the solution, or actually a connection that the solution is matching up to the problem.
Okay, all right. But in terms of like things like, if we have an idea of like what the price would be, should we put that in here or?
No, we're going
really,
to put that in. That's what we're going to discuss with
okay, all right,
tonight's sections
good.
that we skipped last week.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay. Hang on. Did anybody else have comments about the solution?
Yeah, just what you said, like, you're giving features of the solution, but not like what they're good for. Like, so I would say, my solution is 2 form-fitting wedges that comes in different sizes that improves, your baby's 1, 2, 3, or something like that. Like, it doesn't bring home that last part of the.
Okay, I wasn't sure how much of that to include in this slide versus the.
Just like one sentence,
slide.
or one phrase or
Okay.
sentence that encompasses what that solution looks like and the features and what it does specifically.
Okay,
And then, because you're going to talk about what it looks like in comparison to other things in terms of like its value stacked up against this competition, which you already have a slide that goes into more detail. They can be like just very.
Okay, now that makes sense. Just, some way of summarizing that helps. Can I go to the next one?
Ryan, Shelby, have anything?
Good.
Okay, Ron, go ahead. All right, so unique value proposition, molded design shifts weights to hips, avoids pinch points, play wedges with multiple sensory toys, encourages baby to stay in prone position, different sizes to grow with the baby. in some ways, you actually, some of these bullets I think should be on the slide before it to be better descriptors of what the features are on the slide before. So
Okay, yeah, I was having a hard time figuring out that split.
yeah, I
actually.
mean, when Erica was saying those things, this is actually the words that were kind of popping in my head. So, be a little bit more. So I'm going to refer to the slide before, you don't have to go to it, but, make sure those bullets are a little bit more like this of why those are features and what those features actually do for the child. Here, your unique value proposition is an easy and fun way. I mean, I think it might be a little difficult for you to put a pain point for this that means something to the audience. So it's like, what are the unique value propositions for this product? Well, easy, compliance is not the right word, but, going back again to the 30 minutes of tummy time, fun and, fun and comfortable way for your child to spend 30 minutes on their tummy every day.
Okay.
I mean, some things like that, easy to travel, compact size, allows it to travel and do something like that. I mean, there's going to be a few that you're going to probably have to stretch to think of that are going to be your value propositions.
All right. That's helpful. So, but most of the stuff should kind of go into the previous slide, though.
Yeah.
In terms of things that this thing is doing, as Erica said. Okay. All right.
Reusable is another value, right? So
Okay.
you have 3 children, 3 in a row, you use it for all 3, right? So it's not just, some things like that.
Okay. All right. That's helpful.
Can anybody else, Brian, Erica, Shelby, you think of any value propositions that would be good here?
I have a random question.
Ooh, ask away.
Is that covering on the mat washable?
Yes, in principle.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Because having a young daughter, I know that is not going to look like that forever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think right now it's all sewn on together, but ideally it'll just be something you can take off. So it's meant to be just like a cushion cover. So it's just a foam cushion and a cover on top, and so you take it off just like you would with a couch cushion.
Small quiz, is that a feature or a unique value proposition?
Yeah.
I think unique value proposition.
It's going to say it's probably closer to being a feature.
Yeah.
All right.
You have to look at your competition a little bit, but my guess is being washable is pretty common.
Yeah, I think most of them are generally just overall washable, but I think the removable cover. Anyways, yeah, I get what you're saying. It is really more of a feature. Yeah. Okay.
I guess I was going to ask the unique value proposition. The first, maybe I missed this when you were just talking. Molded design shifts weights to hips. What is the point of that?
The point is that because babies are uncomfortable in this position, by shifting their weights to the hips, it's less pressure initially. So it kind of gradually works them into using.
So it helps them keep their head up.
Exactly.
As opposed to the other things that keep them flat down.
Exactly. They keep them flat down, or they have to do all the work themselves, or it puts, so the second, most of the competitors, their issue is the pinch points, but they've tried to accomplish the same thing by some level of incline, just to kind of make it a little easier, but they don't quite shift the weight as much, just because they tend to be, as you're saying, flat.
Okay. Because that's another, I guess, like, I'm kind of assuming that that's what it's about, but you went through this whole process about what the baby's heads look like, and they're flat, and if they don't have enough tummy time, then they're laying like this. And this actually, that particular feature helps keep them from having the head flat and making them sit up, right? Am I thinking of that correctly?
Yeah, just overall, it's just meant to make this tummy time position sort of a transition, right? So like it's not just straight up on their tummy where they have to completely hold their neck up, which I mean is just generally uncomfortable, but just to somehow start that incline where they're. But
it helps them keep,
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's one of the big features that is a problem for them not getting enough tummy time. So
yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
No, thanks. That's helpful. Next slide.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a little busy.
No, I mean, yes, but no. I mean, it's got a ton of information here. It's got the only thing I would say is I like to see red X's for things that
Okay.
people don't have, just because it
Sounds
makes
good.
them look even more off the mark. And don't be shy with the size of these green check marks and
Okay.
red X's. I mean, don't go crazy, but you can make sure they stand out. To me, you have the most comprehensive competitive matrix that I've seen in this cohort. So I don't really have much to add here. You're not going to go over this in detail. This is supposed to look kind of like you're better than the competition in so many different ways, and then you can go into detail later. So I think this is good for me.
Also, Rohan, here, this can be, if we just reorganize it a little bit, it can look still just busy, but a little cleaner.
Okay,
That's something
sounds good.
offline.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff, like a lot of the parenthetical stuff. I'm not sure if it's even necessary, but I sort of threw that in there as just trying to collect. Yeah, I mean, just conglomerate as much of the information as I could in one spot.
It's a great first iteration.
Okay, all right.
Next slide.
Oh,
go ahead, Eric.
I guess it's busy to me, and I'm wondering if all of these things are like important to put on here. They may be. I'm just
No, that's
just
a
my
fair point.
initial, not necessarily having talked to you about it. I'm just wondering, is it like in terms of the problem and what you're trying to achieve, is the soft cotton material necessarily something that needs to be included here? Even, I mean, it may be a perk of the device, but in terms of
I agree. I'm not sure how many of and in fact, when I was going through it myself, I was thinking of, some of these are clearly more important than others. Like I think the full body support and the no pinch points are really the two, probably the most important things. The multisensory toys, it seems like they all have them. So I just put them in there just because that's a common feature. But like you're saying, design's really explaining kind of the issue. I think the last point's kind of cool just because it's very different from the competition. But yeah, again, stuff like baby safe mirror, it is kind of neat, but like I don't know how.
Yeah, those are the things I was just kind of like thinking about what you said your problem was, and how do these things achieve correcting that problem. I just don't see how that necessarily is really important if you're trying to like keep everyone's attention and not draw them to so many different things that you have on the chart. Maybe narrow down to what's like really, really important to focus on.
Okay, sounds good.
That's what I would
sort of condense that down a little bit. Yeah, I'll try some revisions and see how to make that a little more compact. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have to move a little quicker in order to get to everybody's presentations.
Yeah. So go to progress real quick.
Yeah, so obviously make this a little more, I have a bit more detail to add in, and obviously make it a little visually more look like a timeline.
Yeah. I always like to see the timelines kind of going up too, right? From bottom to up, showing you traction and everything else. But yeah, put that on there. And then the team slide was good. If you can add more team members, that's great. But that's all you need. So.
Okay, all right.
All
just
right.
names, persons, and like a little picture.
Yeah, need
Brian,
a name.
are we? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say you put your credentials down there below your name, below your picture, and everything else.
Are the teams asked to like address what next steps that they anticipate, that's going to lead to commercialization or anything having to do with cost? Like, is that something you want them to include or no?
No, those are going to be the slides we talked about tonight that we skipped over last week.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Probably because I wasn't there last week.
We skipped over. We skipped over go-to-market, business model, revenue model, and the ask last week to get them to have enough time to put this in here. Having a healthy baby at the end, though, is a good idea, just to kind of show how your product could lead from what you showed at the beginning to what could be at the end.
Yeah, no, and I know you talked a lot more about what all needs to go in the
from a cosmetic perspective as well.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Ron.
Stop sharing.
I know you have a session already scheduled with Shelby, so I think y'all can cover some more ground with that as well.
Okay. All right.
All right. Who's next? And just, you know, while we're switching, we're going to need to pick up the pace a little bit. So we're not all in here till 10 o'clock at night, but we are going to
My
take the time we
apologies.
need. No, don't worry about it. We are going to take the time we need in order to cover everybody's presentation to give as much feedback as we can. So just bear with us as we move forward this, but we're going to try to speed it up a little bit from this point forward. All right, Pandurang, are you ready, or is there someone else ready to present?
Corey from our team will present on my behalf. I am facing issue as it's asking me to restart, so Corey will do it for our team.
All right, so who is taking over? Raise your hand if you're taking over. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Corey. I'm from team 1. So I think Pandurang has trouble sharing his screen. So I'm sort of representing him to go over our slides. Also, I want to mention that our pitch deck is already still at the very early stage. So we sort of just outline the essential stuff. So this is the name of our company. So we call it Dogma Bioscience. We call them Dogma because for now, our product is centered around DNA, but we think in the long run, we're gonna also include RNA and protein. So it's sort of like the central dogma from biology. So the problem we're addressing is sort of centered around liquid biopsy. As we know, cancer is the leading cause of death in the modern society. Although patients with late-stage cancer typically have dismal 5-year survival rate, the outlook for patients with early-stage cancer is generally excellent. Therefore, early detection of cancer through liquid biopsy is the ultimate answer to battle cancer. So while liquid biopsy industry is already very hot, as evidenced by multiple billion-dollar valuation companies out there, their accuracy and cost are far from being ideal to readily address the market. So the industry desperately needs a solution that boosts the accuracy of liquid biopsy under reasonable cost to benefit large amount of patients. In terms of market and customer, so we think our main customer would be cancer screening diagnosis companies such as Grail, Foundation Medicine, and Guardant Health, or Quest Diagnostics, Roche, etc. So we provide the software solution for sensitive detection of cancer in early stages. And also, we think our customer could also include the sequencing instrument manufacturers, especially like the sequencing giant Illumina, because we think we can provide QC solution for monitoring and calibrating instruments to improve sequencing error rates in general. And in the long term, we think we can also offer our service to the sequencing centers, such as the cancer centers, research institutes, or universities. We can provide our data analysis service to measure and suppress the sequencing errors in the data. And we can also monitor the response to cancer therapies. So basically, the solution of our company is we provide a scalable, cost-effective, and highly sensitive computational solutions to precisely measure and systematically suppress sequencing errors in deep sequencing data, therefore making it possible to detect cancer in early stages with high accuracy. We think our solution can significantly increase the accuracy of cancer liquid biopsy reports from current companies. Here's our value proposition. So here's a lot of gains and pains and from the current company. So we think in terms of in terms of gain for our customers, we can increase their accuracy of detection to up to 100-fold. And we improve their quality of reporting, and we significantly shorten their analysis time. In terms of pain relievers, we basically save the cost and time of DNA barcoding, which is currently the mainstream of most liquid biopsy companies. And also, we offer the cost-effective usage of data, and we significantly increase the sensitivity of detection. So in terms of products and service, we provide a robust method to systematically measure and suppress sequencing errors. And we offer scalable software solution and data analysis pipeline. So here's our competition and unfair advantages. So here we compare our company, Dogma Bio, versus three giants in liquid biopsy. So in terms of error rate, so this is our main selling point, right? So the current error rate in liquid biopsy industry is generally above 1,000, but our solution can basically suppress their error rate down to 10 to 100. So that represents 100-fold decrease in sequencing error. So that makes the possible limit of detection of our method much lower than the current method. So imagine you have a cancer cell circulating in the blood, and the amount is tiny. You want to detect this tiny amount of mutation, so you want the sensitivity to be really high. And since our method is generally directly using current deep sequencing data, so we have no need for UMI-based protocol, but current companies all need to use UMI-based protocol. So this is a part of our cost-saving strategy. And so in terms of sequencing cost, our sequencing cost would be a lot lower than the current companies. And in terms of data storage, it will also subsequently be lower. And analysis turnaround time, it would be faster because, again, we don't need those UMI-based protocol. And also all this data we quoted here are actually from the peer-reviewed publications, especially the first two papers published in Genome Biology is our group lead, Shatu, from his group. So in terms of go-to-market strategy, we haven't really finalized this part really well. This is just some like brainstorming
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we skipped these last week, so I'm going to skip you through a few of them because we're not ready to talk about them. But go ahead, go to the next slide.
Okay.
This one too.
So
let's
skip this one.
Okay,
Progress.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So so currently we have so already there are like published research papers supporting our claims. I mean, we have evidence of the citation of our paper and software downloads of our tool, and also we filed an international patent. And our prototype software is ready for demo with the required features. So that include data analysis, visualization, summary report, and also, yeah, we talked to Andrew the other week. He's very interested in sort of talking to us further to sort of develop this into a sort of into a business model. And we already registered the domain dogmabio.com, so because we think it's a cool name. So in terms of the capital,
we're going to skip this one too.
Sure. All right, so team members. So we have 4 team members in our team. So Xiaotu Ma is the PI, and he's also the main inventor of this tool. He's currently a system member at St. Jude, and Panduran is actually from Xiaotu's lab. He's a bioinformatics scientist at St. Jude as well. So his role would be, potential role would be product management, marketing and outreach. And myself, I am currently a senior bioinformatics scientist. My potential role would also be project management, operation, and marketing. And then Nareem Mirza, who has an MBA in biotechnology. So her role would also be similar to ours. And I think that's it.
Okay, great. Thanks for skipping over those. We're going to go over those tonight of what you need to do for the next iteration. I just didn't want to spend time giving you feedback on those right now when we weren't discussing it for anyone else's.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go up to the beginning. And while you're doing that, I want to make a blanket statement to everyone is we have 7 minutes for each one of you to give your presentation. So when you're thinking about your script, pay a lot of attention to the timing and understand what slides need more time and understand what slides need less time, right? So if you're going to put a lot of information on a slide, and this is not a direct comment to team one here, this is just a general comment. But for examples, the team slide, you might not want to take a lot of time or 20 to 30 or 40 seconds talking about the team slide. You might want to just summarize by saying we have a large group of dedicated individuals working on a variety of different things, including these advisors and our scientific things, blah, blah, blah. Just, what I'm saying is manage the time appropriately from slide to slide, knowing that you're going to need more time for the more significant slides and less time for some of the ones that are just kind of insignificant. Or lesser significant, I should say. Nothing's insignificant. All right, let's go back to the top. Logo, I think it's kind of cool, but we don't need to hear anything necessarily about the logo. Just to make sure, when we're moving forward and writing your script and everything else, it's simply, hey, we're Dogma Bio, and we have something to talk to you about. All right, let's go on to problem. Okay, I'm gonna say something for over the next 3 slides, because as you were walking through the next 3 slides, I started feeling disconnected from the problem through the customer, through the solution. The problem, just frankly, is not that cancer is the leading cause of death in modern society. I mean, cancer is a problem. That's true. Patients with late stage cancer typically have dismissal, 5-year survival rate, a dismal 5-year survival rate. The outlook for patients with early stage cancer is generally excellent. Again, that's good information, but it's not relevant, I think, to what your solution is. Early detection of cancer through liquid biopsy is the ultimate solution to battle cancer. That's relevant because you're talking about the liquid biopsy industry here. While liquid biopsy is already very hot, as evidenced by multi-billion-dollar evaluation companies, their accuracy and cost, the liquid biopsy industry, it doesn't matter if it's hot or not. You're going to talk about the market when you're talking about go-to-market and some of the other things. The point here is that the accuracy and cost are far from being ideal to readily address the market. But I also want to know kind of why. And the industry desperately needs a solution that boosts the accuracy of liquid biopsy. The point I'm trying to make is that the accuracy of the data is the solution. Having a solution, a system in place that provides for a greater level of accuracy and just general quality of the information, the data, is a solution you're bringing. The problem is the current systems that measure that are ineffective, and here are the reasons why. That's the problem.
Okay.
I have a question. So you're saying that early detection for cancer improves prognosis and survival. And detecting cancers, the most common method, I'm just saying, is it liquid biopsy? Are there other methods besides liquid biopsy? Are there certain cancers that are more frequently detected by liquid biopsy?
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, so liquid biopsy is the ultimate solution for early detection.
Of what? What kind of, is it solid cancers? Is it blood-borne cancers? Like, of what? Is it solid cancer?
Yeah, like solid tumor, like leukemia or brain tumor. It's all possible.
So what I envision, and like when I'm listening to the problem, is like a patient who is coming in, has some kind of thing that was detected on imaging, is coming in with a need for a biopsy, and that patient gets a biopsy, it's a liquid biopsy, and that thing comes back negative for tumor. And then 1 year later, they come back with signs and symptoms of, weight loss, et cetera. That to me puts me in the mind frame of a problem, like that I can visualize, and that gives me a visceral response to what the issue is versus what I'm reading here.
Yeah, I agree with
So you want like a more concrete example to show the audience.
Right. That's why I'm asking
Okay.
you those little nuanced questions, like to kind of give a picture of what a person or a patient might look like who comes in and gets that biopsy and it comes back negative and they find out that it's positive. Like that's the issue that I'm thinking of when I see.
So that's an issue of the accuracy. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and just to expand upon what Erica's saying, there are a lot of cancers where you don't have symptoms until it's too late. I'm thinking of like a pancreatic cancer. So maybe you reframe this problem by telling a story of like a certain cancer where if they don't have accurate detection with a liquid biopsy, they're dead, basically, right? So
yeah,
I
mean, that could be a way to sort of narrow down and focus the problem so that people can relate to it.
Yep.
Dr. Pfeffer made a point here, he says liquid biopsy is still not an approved diagnostic tool as well. Just something to remember.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. There's no mature market there's no mature products yet.
That's right. And I think that's really important, because if you say it how you are right now, you're going to turn off people because it's not true. I mean, that's all these companies are trying to come up with liquid biopsy tools, and none of them have been approved so far. So you got to be very careful about the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to add over here. I mean, it is not like liquid biopsy is not approved. There are quite a range of products available on the market by Guardant or Roche, which are based on liquid biopsy. So yeah, that is not correct fact, I would like to say.
It's not standard of care. It really isn't.
Right. He's saying it's not it's FDA approved, but it's not the standard of care that's actually used in a real live clinical setting. Like that's what you're saying, Dr. Pfeffer, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I
Anybody?
think any more comments on the problem? All right, I think what we've talked about is probably going to be the same for the next two slides. I think they just need to be tighter aligned with what the new problem is that you're going to establish. Go on to market and customer. These are I agree with these, but so the cancer screen diagnostic companies these are the companies that are going to utilize your software, right?
Potentially.
Yeah, sequencing instrument manufacturers. So I'm okay with this if you really draw a more clear picture on the first slide of really who's having the problem and who is impacted by the problem. The problem is that you're not getting the accuracy out of the machines that you need in order to give the most effective diagnosis to a patient. So when you reword the first one, this will probably make this one make a little bit more sense, because earlier you're talking about cancer patients and now you're talking about sequencing manufacturers and diagnostic companies. So I think there's going to be a tighter bond between these two after that.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody disagree with what I just said about comments so we can move on? All right, let's go on to solution. The highly sensitive computing solutions to precisely measure the symptomatic express. We need to see more of the how. I mean, we know you provide a scalable, cost-effective, highly sensitive computational solutions to precisely measure and systematically express sequencing. But let's talk about how. What's the differentiator in your solution that makes the customer want to do that in order to provide more accurate diagnoses from liquid biopsies? So We need to see more of the how.
Okay.
And it could be a simple graphic. I mean, if it's some complex algorithm, I mean, you could just have, an arrow going to, I don't know, a bunch of numbers, and you spit out your solution that has, higher accuracy. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be specific. We're all dummies here. So
you bring up a good point, Ryan. If you can layer in, stats data here of how much of a jump in accuracy your solution allows for, this is where you need to put it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, here, this slide is definitely it's still pretty rough. This is really just the outline of our slides. We're definitely gonna add more meats into each of the slides.
And I don't think you are, but I'm gonna make this as a statement. Don't take our comments as us saying you're 4 miles backwards or 40 feet backwards from where you need to be, right? No, I think you've got some changes to make, but they're not going to be difficult necessarily now that we've talked about them, and you're still pretty well far along on the progress that I was hoping to see here. So just make some adjustments.
Okay.
Any more comments on the first 3 slides before we move on to value proposition? All right, move on to UVP. Okay, so I like the idea of this, but I don't like the idea of showing it to an audience that has no idea what this is. So we all know what this is. This is good. The value propositions generally, or in particular, are the gain creators and the pain relievers. You went through those, and I think those are the value propositions. All the rest of this chart, I know you were just throwing this in here because that's you acknowledging that these is where your value propositions are, so that's good. But don't worry about talking about the solution again, the products and services, or any of the reasons why these things are happening over to the right in the circle, the persona circle. Just those 2 major sections in the square to the left, gain creators and the pain relievers. I thought you actually read those and added a little bit more information pretty well. Anywhere you can add specifics or data of how much it increases short analysis time by X%, that'd be good.
Okay. Excellent.
Any other comments on UVP? All right. The unfair advantages. Okay, so I think what you were saying to us is actually very compelling, but I'm not sure this table does it justice, or maybe just the way you're presenting it at the moment, but it will present it differently as it progresses. I mean, these are the data points that I think are pretty significant, and here's a good place to put them on this slide because it's your differentiator between the other ones. So, your error rate and data and the possible limit of detection, these are really good. I'd almost isolate those either by color or 2 tables or what have you. Just make sure you're drawing a lot of attention to these, because I think these are fairly significant when you're talking about a whole order of magnitude greater in detection than your competition is. So I think that's very compelling. And then I think the way you could kind of word the no need for UMI protocol could be, it could be worded a little bit different, because I think that's also significant. You have all 3 of these that are required to have a UMI protocol. So maybe you put in UMI protocol not required for you, but required the word in for the other ones, right? Just to draw a more distinction of that. You don't need this UMI protocol, but the others do.
Right. Okay.
And then I lost what you said at the end about these footnotes here. What are these?
Oh, so these are sort of like the source of this data.
Okay, all
so,
right. Yeah, I thought it sounded like you were talking about referring to white papers at some, but I misheard that. And if that's a source of the data, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move forward. Yeah, skip that one, skip the next 3, go to progress. I thought this is good. You just need, again, I'm going to say this for everybody. You should put this on somewhat of a timeline, right? And to show your progress, it's going to be easier to kind of visually show and stimulate people's impression of you and how impressed they would be on your internet, on your patent filing and so on and so forth. One concern I have is labeling and expression of interest by an angel investor. I know, and I'm very happy for you to continue having conversations with Andrew But generally, when you're talking to investors, it's a rather lengthy thing. And if you're getting into the due diligence side of things, or you've had several meetings down the roads, that a lot of times that's good to mention, especially if they're name investors. You could also just leave the name out of this, because what you don't want, two things. What you don't want is to have someone at Sage sitting in office, and this is not going to happen with Sage necessarily, but let's just throw an example here where Andrew has a different opinion of how far y'all along in the conversation and kind of goes, well, that was bold for them to say. Now, again, this is not a direct example or a real example of what I think Andrew would say, but you can see how that would be if you've had one conversation with an investor and now you're saying an expression of interest, even though they said, hey, yeah, put time on my calendar, 2 weeks, we'll talk, right? So just be careful. This is a general comment to everybody, not just y'all. Be careful about who you call out, because they might not be on the same page you are. You can also, the other point side of that is you could be a little bit more looser, a little bit more, less specific, and just say, we have had several discussions with angel and venture capitalist investors over the last 4 months, and interest seems to be high. You could say something to that effect.
Gotcha. Yep.
Now, if anybody has closed any money in real terms, this is also definitely where you put this. Okay, go to team real quick. Again, I made that comment not because of the way you presented this, because I know right now we said we're just doing a walkthrough. This is something just to highlight these areas and these roles, and not spend. You just don't want to spend a minute talking about the team and you only have 7 minutes, right? Because there's so many other things to talk about. So I think you get the point there. Okay, any other comments to this from Ryan, Erica, or Shelby?
No, just put pictures of your team next to their names and descriptions.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm assuming there's no pictures in your slide other than your logo, just for lack of time. But and put your logo at the bottom left-hand corner or right-hand corner of every slide too. I mean, if that's your logo, stand by it proud. I think it's pretty cool looking. But yeah, just add some imagery to this, break up the whiteness of it.
And just like that, you're getting a lot of comments and critiques because you guys have obviously put in a bunch of work to make this slide. So, I mean, we appreciate that, but so don't take it as like we're being critical of this. We just have stuff to be critical, or stuff in front of us that we can critique. So thank you for that.
That was super useful, super helpful.
Yeah, and you already had 4 of the slides kind of already filled out too. So you're really in some ways ahead of the game in this thing. So good job, team.
Oh, thank you.
All right, what's the next team?
Hey, can team 5 take a turn?
You sure can, Christina. I'm gonna. Who should I make co-host?
Well, I'll present the slides.
Okay.
Let me see.
And Christina, I'm sorry. What team are y'all? Number
5.
All right, I made you co-host.
Okay, great. Let me see. Give me 1 second. I'm having trouble finding everything.
Something maybe I can help you with, or
Yeah, it's just not. I'm not seeing I just prepared some Google slides that are in the document, but I'm not seeing that being shown up. Let's see. I'm just gonna click on something. think this is,
You push the share screen button.
yeah, I did. It's taking me through system preferences.
Okay.
Let's see if this,
Is the issue that you can't share your screen or you can't find your slides?
well, I don't see the slides on the share thing. It just has a bunch of like triangles with exclamation marks. And then I tried to share it, but then it's taking me through system preferences. But it's not letting me change my preferences.
Do you want me to pull your slides up and you can just tell me when to go?
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Let's
There-
do that. Okay, hold on. Give me just a second.
I don't know why this is. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, y'all can see okay?
Yes.
All right, you just tell me when to click through.
All right. Then I think you can press the present button in the corner. That makes it easier. Okay. So we're in the very early stages of our pitch deck presentation as well. So this presentation is just bullet points of everything I've got.
Yeah.
So we will be addressing glioblastoma multiform. GBM is one of the most invasive brain tumors and accounts for about 52% of all primary brain tumors, with patients having an average lifespan of about 12 to 15 months upon being diagnosed. Currently, treatment includes surgery, radiation therapy, and chemotherapy. And because these are brain tumors, they are difficult to remove by surgery. And oftentimes, studies have shown that GBM cancer cells are often or will develop resistance to chemotherapy. And in the current standard of treatment, the chemotherapy will not only kill the GBM cancer cells, but also healthy normal cells, and it's very highly toxic and has low efficacy. Further, the studies have also shown that GBM cancer cells have stem-like cell behavior, which means that they proliferate rapidly, and they can also self-renew. And this further allows them to spread quickly to nearby brain tissue. And oftentimes it will be very progressive before producing symptoms. And as I previously mentioned, it's just difficult surgery removal. Patients have to undergo radiation, and they can build resistance to chemotherapy. And we can go to the next slide. So currently, the incidence of GBM is about 3 new cases per every 100,000 individuals each year. This predominantly hits males between the ages of 20 to 74. The median age of diagnosis is 58, and the median age at death is 64. GBM has an impact on a global scale. So as you can see, different countries, USA, France, UK, Germany, Japan, there are thousands of individuals looking for a treatment that will help them. The current risk factors include radiation exposure, family history, genetic inheritance, urban residence, male gender, and age. And thus, we would like to pitch our solution to pharmaceutical companies who are in search of a better solution to offer to oncologists treating GBM patients. And so our solution is offering these novel targeted bromodomain inhibitors that will improve the efficacy of current chemotherapy. So when combined with current standard of treatment, our inhibitors will have been shown to improve and prolong the quality of life for patients. We can go to the next one. So our unique value propositions are that we are offering a targeted therapeutic approach that will enhance patient responsiveness to current treatment standards that have been used for years. And we aim to provide oncologists with a better treatment to give to patients. And ultimately, our goal is to offer patients a better quality of life and prolong their survival. And most importantly, just to alleviate patient burden of disease. And next. So we have performed some competitive analysis, and there are still some questions that we are looking into and trying to find an answer for. But up top, you'll see a list of different chemotherapies that are currently being used to treat GBM patients. And we looked at the ease of administration, how severe the post-administration events were, whether it was a targeted therapy or not. The ease of manufacturing this based on the drug type, overall increase in survival and cost effectiveness, and that you can see that with our solution, there is an overall reduced toxicity. It is a targeted therapy with combination of conventional therapy. It's a small molecule, and it does increase, or in my studies, it has shown to increase overall survival. And we need more research to determine what type of administration will be taken into effect and the cost effectiveness of our solution. Next. And thus far, scientific studies have shown that there is reduced tumor cell proliferation. So that means that the cells aren't growing as quickly. And in our mouse studies, can you click? Which is the IVO 73 and IVO 85. I have them highlighted in a red box. When you click on the thing, an animation should pop up, but hopefully, maybe it does. I guess
Which
not.
one?
If you just click on the slide, I think there's a built-in animation. Yeah. So those are the drugs that we're proposing. There's enhanced animal survival, and that's on another click. As you can see on the bottom of the chart, enhanced animal survival with our drugs. And then there is decreased brain tumor volume, and that's another click. Yeah. And then our team is Dr. Peffer, who's a professor, Fatima, who's a UT graduate student, and then me, I'm a St. Jude graduate student. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Shelby.
All right, Shelby, I still need you to show that though.
Give me a sec.
Yeah. Good job. I think you have a lot of great information there. I just want to walk through those slides, give a few comments on each, and let Erica and Ryan and Shelby, if they have anything to add as well. Okay.
Hold on, guys. I keep rainbow wheel freezing. All right, there we go.
Okay. All right. You've got a lot of great information here. Okay. I don't want to lose really any of it, but I want to lose a significant amount of the words, right? So there's one thing I want to say, which is, although I gave you a template that had one slide per section, that doesn't mean you're only required to have one slide in that section. Okay. So you can expand any section you want if it makes sense to how you're presenting that section. Here, you've got a lot of, this is a big, hairy problem, you know, and you've done a good job of talking about that. And it might take you several slides to show that problem, because this has got too much information on one slide, right? So that, I just want to make sure no one's got handcuffs on anybody saying, oh, Brian and Shelby and everyone said it had to be this one slide because they only gave us one slide in the template. That's not the case. So if you want to expand that out, just knowing that every slide adds time, but you are going to utilize your 45 seconds that you're talking about the problem across 4 or 5 slides to pick out the 3 or 4 highest pain points. I think that would be, I think that'd be good. You don't have to have 30 pain points and talk about 30 different things, but if you pick the most scary top 3 or 4, that's what you can talk about. The current standard of treatments are not that great. GBM itself is a pretty nasty cancer, and it's difficult to treat and remove. And I think y'all talked about also the number of individuals, and I think I wrote this down for maybe the next slide, but how many people both in their first diagnosis, then a second diagnosis post remission, right? I mean, it's even more significant when it comes back, and I think that's something to highlight here as part of the big hairy problem.
I agree. I think probably half. You can have one slide and probably half of the information in talking about GBM. Like, for us who kind of have, a background or whatever, like the cancer stem cells have stem cell like behavior, proliferate rapidly, like that portion, probably unnecessary for a business pitch. I mean, it's important for us to understand why, it's hard to treat, but also it's a little bit to me, it's a little bit too much into the mechanisms of why it's difficult to treat than is necessary for this type of a presentation. So, I mean, like the things that stand out is, it's the most malignant brain cancer affects this many people. Mortality rate is this because it's very difficult to treat. For those who are even qualified to have all the 3 different types of treatments, the standard of care. So I would definitely cut down on quite a bit of it. Like go to the next slide, just because these 2 are like kind of similar information. Yeah, right. So breaking it down to like, the global scale of how many people in each country probably is very unnecessary.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, I don't think it adds anything other than like saying how many in each country you would put it down.
But this slide is screaming graphs to me.
Yeah. I mean, I would show diagnosis and deaths, by numbers. Certainly.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying to say 13,000 in US, 3,000 in France, 2,200 in the UK, 3,500 in Germany.
No, it would be better to
don't show the global impact, show the United States impact.
No. Add them all together.
Show the impact. What does it add?
One person at a time.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Say it again.
No, I don't know if everybody else is having it, but I had Ryan, Shelby, and Erica all at the same time.
I heard an echo.
So, all right. Erica, say again what you're trying to say about these numbers.
What I'm saying is I don't know how important it is to break down each country's numbers. I think the number overall is key and should be there. I don't know what value it adds to your story that you break down based off of every single country and what the numbers are there.
Yeah, I hear you, and I agree with you. In that regard, and I think you would agree with what Ryan and Shelby and I were saying also, which is you did say that we don't want to lose the numbers. So I'm really speaking to Christina. We don't want you to lose the numbers, but make sure the numbers are the best numbers to present around this idea. Breaking them out by country, I agree, is not the best unless you're showing the United States, which is where we're talking about now. Obviously, it's a bigger issue than just the United States, but the numbers are good. I agree with Ryan too. This is a great opportunity to show some graphs, and you can do it over multiple slides as well.
Yeah.
But here's where you're really talking about the impact to the customer. So you kind of start the conversation in the slide before it with the problems, and you finish the problem conversation by talking about the customers. For y'all, that's not the case for every scenario, but for you, I think it is that scenario where you set the stage up. It's kind of like you set the bowling pins up around the problem, you knock them down with showing us how big the problem is when you're talking about your customers, because you're identifying those customers here. You can still talk about, the patient demographics and where it's most prevalent, but it's not as meaningful. So when we talk about personas, and we talked about those several weeks back, it's sometimes good to put those persona details in the deck, especially if we're talking a very specific group of individuals. Here we're talking a very large group of individuals. So, and since it's 20 to 74, I'm not sure that's really relevant because it's a large group. And then the last thing I wanted to say before I open it back up is, pharmaceutical companies are in search of a better solution to offer to oncologists treating GBM patients. Pharmaceutical companies are looking for dollar bills. Doctors are looking for better treatment alternatives to that. Doctors will, and this is just everyone. This is just kind of a general comment about the way it works. Doctors will then choose based on whatever information they have. If it's a fully approved thing, they'll pressure their administrators and everything else. They'll pressure the pharmaceutical companies, whoever's got the drug or whatever treatment they want. And then then through a lot of contract and everything else, they have that treatment at their fingertips soon thereafter, right? So the customer, to me, the reason I say all this is, the thing that's going to be impacted by this are the patients that have GBM, right? They're your customer. The distribution of that solution will be done through pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, physicians, so on and so forth, oncologists, so on and so forth. So I don't think this bullet should be here at all.
Yeah, we were going back and forth on who should we be giving this pitch out to. So when I was crafting this first problem slide, I made it to where it was like broad up top, but then more science jargon down bottom, because ultimately we made the decision actually this afternoon, to switch our value proposition statement to be targeted towards pharmaceutical companies. So then that's why I was struggling to figure out in what way is it best to include that background information about how dangerous and like lethal GBM is, but then also explain the science behind like what our solution can offer. And then with this slide, I included the global impact, just to show that there are thousands of people on a global scale that that are searching for better treatments, and that will further entice, or that could potentially further entice pharmaceutical companies. So that's why I wanted to tie that information in. It's not just in the US, or it's not just in Europe. You've got people like everywhere looking for a better solution.
And this is 3 new cases per 100,000 worldwide each year.
Yes, I think.
Then I would just make the GBM impact at a global scale 1 number.
Okay.
Yeah, the numbers don't, like, for GBM, I mean, overall, it's not impressive to me. What's impressive is the mortality rate and the morbidity associated with the disease. It's really more impressive than anything.
Yeah, that's good. Very good point.
Yeah, I would focus on, if you get it, you're probably dying.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I just say one thing? Yeah. So I think it would be important if they put down like how many people are diagnosed with GBM in the US each year and how many die from GBM. I think that would be a more dramatic thing, because I think it's like, Erica, probably know the numbers. It's like 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's the other thing that we're saying, is that even for those that even qualify for, which a lot of people don't qualify for all 3, the standard of care, that's the issue. And so there's so many other, there's so much room for improvement in terms of treatment that don't carry such, more morbidity, like surgery, like you said. It's very, it's going to be difficult. Can't get all the tumor. So I think that, like what Dr. Pfeffer is saying, it really drives home the impact for someone who may not necessarily know much about GBM, but they know it's a deadly brain cancer. And those numbers lead right next to each other really drive that point home.
Yeah. All right.
Since you always want to personalize it, maybe you should show a picture of someone like John McCain or something like that, because he died of GBM. It's always nice to show someone that you recognize, maybe.
You don't, I mean, yeah, you can mention it. You can put a picture of him. I mean, that would, yes. I mean, that would be the perfect pin on the head of this, of saying this is, everyone in America knows someone that has died of GBM recently.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a blanket statement, obviously not true, but pretty close. All right, let's move on. I think we'll see a lot of changes between this iteration and next iteration. So I want to, so I looked down to take a note, and this slide just slid on by me. Novel targeted therapy approach, novel targeted inhibitors improve the, I mean, this is not really the solution, right? I mean, this is it's just basically saying that your inhibitors improve the efficacy of the current chemotherapy, but not how, not the why. So just you need to spend some time on this and expand the solution to really illustrate what the solution actually is.
Okay.
Move forward. Enhance the patient response to the current treatment. I mean, I think these are good. This is an opportunity for you to reiterate some of the numbers we just talked about earlier about survivability, right? So you can bring them up again and make that a very factual, numerical kind of value proposition. Alleviate patient burden of disease. I mean, kind of a blanket statement of, I think, let me rephrase this. You probably just need to spend a little bit more time looking at your unique value proposition canvas and really targeting those gains and pains and trying to build a few more bullets and change a few more of these bullets to be a little bit more impactful. And reiterate numbers wherever you can in this regard, because those would be more compelling.
That's a quick question. So this is an adjuvant therapy that you would use with available chemotherapeutic agents?
Yes.
And so by using it, does it decrease the number of treatments you have, or the amount of chemotherapies that you would need at a given moment? Does it actually decrease how much you would need to give a person?
I don't know if it decreases how much you would need. I just, from the studies that I saw, it just shows that in mice, they just had prolonged survival. But I don't know in that time if they decreased the amount of chemo.
I'm just thinking in terms of toxicity, like that would be another value proposition if you're able to give it along with other chemotherapy agents that are out there. Does it decrease toxicity because you're able to decrease the number of doses to the patient, or decrease the amount of the dosage to the patient each time they get it? I don't know. I'm just asking
Erica,
that.
you're right. That's the result. If you
Yeah.
you can lower the dose to get the same effect with a higher dose.
Okay, because that to
Valuable.
me is a value proposition that I would put on here.
Yeah, that's valuable. Thank you for being a scientist, Erica, and leading them to a value proposition through scientific questioning. I appreciate that. Shelby and I would have not been able to do that. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. I think you're got a lot of information here. The coloring, though, is going to be kind of throwing people off, right? Does the color mean anything? Or are you just being colorful? I noticed that some of the words that are the same, like oral is always green, stuff like that. Take out the color, let the color represent the negative of them not a competitor not having something and you having something by doing the green. So stick with the greens, blacks, and reds, but not so much through this. I mean, I see the severe post-administration events. There's 4 or 5 blocks there that seem to be 2 or 3 color reds. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. But otherwise, to me, when you have all this stuff, your eyes are going all over the place and you're kind of losing the content. So that's what would be my, at least, cosmetic observations for this slide.
Yeah, I remember red-green color blindness is the most common form of color blindness. So especially in men.
That's why we always talk about red X's and green checks.
Okay.
As an icon, right? This is something that they can visually see.
Also, just a quick question. Is this orally bioavailable?
So, not that I know of.
Dr.
So-
Pfeffer, are you still here?
Yes, we don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
That's to be tested.
Is that
Yeah.
that's your target, is to be oral?
That would be the dream if it is orally bioavailable. It works by IV, I mean, right now.
Right.
I'd either take this out as far as
Mhm.
administration. And I would take out ease of administration, just administration. I would either take it out or mention IV infusion and then working towards oral or something to that effect. I mean, you could do both sides of that, but definitely don't want to put any information in that's not accurate or not known at the time.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on. Okay, so this you have a different kind of progress model than we typically see. It's certainly more data driven and scientific. And the animation does, if you were presenting this and pushing the button, obviously it would have been more smooth and we could have seen really a better picture of what you're trying to do. The progress slide generally is less about data and more about milestones, right? So I'd rather see, instead of getting into the scientific side of things, and you can put some of these scientific trial stuff in some of the other slides, but for me, the traction and the progress needs to be about your milestones. But your milestones, if you are talking about, a animal clinical trial that concluded at one point, and you have really good data that shows about that, you can actually say that in the milestone timeline, right? So that would be my suggestion. I just don't want to get too far into the data because of time, and that's pretty much it on as far as my comment goes.
I think it's
Brian,
important if you say, like, we've done proof of concept experiments in a mouse model and shown that our endpoints were met, or of survival and size of tumors, etc. Like that might, I guess, that delivering it in that information versus the graphs and things like that people are looking at, like it's a scientific paper, probably would be better, I think.
Okay.
and I think they need to know that we filed the US patent and filed the international patent.
Exactly. Milestone. Yeah.
An investor is going to care a lot about less about clinical data, because in due diligence, they're going to look at all your clinical data, or at least, ask you everything about it and you explain it to them. But here it's about those two things are way more important than some of the raw data coming out of the clinical trial, those patent things. That's what an investor wants to see, because ultimately that's value. Value there. All right. And the last slide was team. I think you had. Yes, you know what to do here, right? You just haven't got to it. I understand. And just so you know, I mean, work with anybody you can to get a better logo version than for the UTRF than the one here, right? If you need help, I can help you. Erica can help you. Ryan, we all have connections with all the people at all these organizations. I probably actually have the logos. So just ask us if you need it, if you can't find it yourself.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Thank you. Good job. All right, so team 2 and team 3 are not presenting tonight. We'll work with them individually. I think that only leaves team 4. I don't want to sacrifice any of your time, team 4. I just do want to make one statement to remind everybody that I do have 4 slides worth of deck to go over tonight as well. So if we can all just bear with us while we get through this, I think it's pretty valuable if we stick to it and try to get them all done. All right, so team 4, you ready?
For the most part, yeah.
All right, Jessica, presenting.
So when I interpreted the homework assignment, we really thought it was like a skeleton. So there's really not a whole lot of content to go over. So that's good news for your 4 slides of content.
Okay.
So how do I share? I can just hit the share content button.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we see.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So you can see this?
Yep, problem circulating tumors, CTCs.
Yes. So our problem statement is that basically Circulating tumor cells, also known as CTCs, are the hallmark of metastasis. And current tests have a high threshold of detection and produce a lot of false negatives. They have very low sensitivity. They only use one surface marker for detection, and they miss other types of CTCs because there's a heterogeneous population. They all have different characteristics. And they require multi-step assays, both to isolate the CTCs and then to detect and quantify them, which leads to the failure to detect early metastasis, inaccurate depiction of treatment progress, and then failure to detect cancer recurrence for patients who are in remission. So our market and customer is quite broad. There are a lot of people who die from cancer each year, and 90% of those deaths are caused by metastasis. And in 2014, specifically, over $87 billion was spent on cancer-related healthcare. And a significant portion of that was actually out-of-pocket treatment costs for patients. And so our goal is going to be twofold: to go directly to the healthcare provider, hospitals, or research groups, but then also to target those outside laboratories like LabCorp that do the secondary test running for these bigger organizations. And our biggest competition, actually, this is just a note, not for the final presentation, but for you guys, this is our biggest competition's model, is actually just the second part. Our solution is an all-in-one nano tag that both detects and captures the circulating tumor cells at once. So our unique value propositions are that we have these multiple surface markers, which increases the sensitivity of the test. And we have a one-step system, which reduces the sample processing time, and it also reduces the risk of sample loss. And it detects multiple types of CTCs, which, as I mentioned previously, they are a heterogeneous population. This slide is super in progress. I want to make sure it's accurate and the data gets a little bit in the weeds. I don't want to misrepresent any information and make claims that aren't true. So I'm still working on this.
Okay.
But those two things we are sure about. I just want to make sure anything else we add is accurate. And only one of these so far is FDA approved, and that's cell search. The other two are not yet FDA approved for therapeutic use.
Yeah.
And then so far, I did contact Dr. Huang to see if there are any grants that we could maybe list on this slide that have supported the research to develop this IP, and to get some clarification on like where they are in the IP filing process. And then obviously the Memphis Scipreneur challenge is quite the accomplishment. And then our team is Aisha and myself and our mentor, Dr. Huang. We will be adding photos and icons for our various institutions.
Okay.
And that's it.
Great. Let's go back to the front.
All right. Oh, no, wait. Sorry.
All
I
right.
hit the wrong button.
You should have said, you missed an opportunity to say oops, like your daughter did, though.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, that's what she said. Uh-oh.
That's what she said. Sorry, my iPod's not responding. I don't know why it's not responding anymore.
Do you have it in the team folders?
I do. Okay, wait. I think it's counting down now.
Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay, there we go.
All right, yeah, let's go to the top.
Okay.
Okay. The way you laid
Great.
this out, I think was good. I mean, I think you just need to kind of put it in terms that are a little less sciencey and a little bit more, lay person. Talking about, that, yeah, CTC tests can detect early cancer during routine doctor visits and provide insights into treatment progress and prognosis.
I think that statement actually was an older statement for some reason. I might have accidentally clicked into the wrong file. I think the statement we're kind of going to go with is that CTCs are a hallmark of metastasis. I think that's a much clearer statement to kind of direct the mind of our audience. Like, this is where we're going with this. This is why this is important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you need to do, so when I say less sciencey, I don't necessarily mean take the science out of it. What I mean is educate us a little bit. And the next slide,
Right.
you're talking about something that's a 9 million, I mean, 90% of 10 million. I mean, you're talking about a significant number in the next slide. So here you need to do a little bit of explanation, teach us a little bit about metastasis and what happens and why that's so bad, and what the significance of the CTC tests. And then also, the problems I think are very, very good, except not everyone knows what a multi-step assay is, right? So it's kind of like you need to explain and educate just a little bit about some of these things. Images can do a really good job of helping with that, right? You can show
Definitely.
biological renderings of metastases and things like that. So here, and I know you would probably get to that. So I'm saying this more so to make sure that we're on the same page with where you're going to take it, because we don't have a lot of time between now and next week. Is here you need to explain a little bit more along with the problem to set up for the next slide when you talk about how many people this actually affects, and the importance of the fact that it doesn't even pick up other types of CTC, so it's got a very limited scope. So these things in the parentheses, low sensitivity, limited scope, costly and time consuming, those are part of the big hairy problem, but you need to explain to us why those are there.
Yeah, I definitely think I opened the wrong. Yeah, this isn't finished.
All right.
I don't know how that happened. It's not the right one. Oh, there it is. Okay, I just had to close it and reopen it.
But this is the one you showed us first, so don't. Okay, this one so yeah, perfect. Go to this slide. Okay, 10 million people die from cancer each year, and you also learn over 600,000 people die. I mean, these are really strong numbers, right? This is a significant problem. 90% of cancer deaths are caused by metastases. I mean, so here, I love this. I would drop the bottom part here. And this is just kind of a general statement to everyone, which is, in the customer slide, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to show in detail the person or entity that's going to pay you money. It's really about the person that's feeling the pain of the problem. The person that's going to pay for that solution might be someone completely different, and it might just be a prescribed order from a Cardinal or a pharmaceutical company or something like that. But the fact is that the person that's going to affect and impact the most is the person that's going to receive the treatment based on your solution. So drop the last.
So we can save that for the go-to-market strategy.
Exactly. And thank you very much, Jessica. That's exactly where we will drop it. Is that when we talk about partners and people that are actually going to pay you for your.
And I agree. These are the numbers that are eye-opening. 10 million people that have cancer are dying because they get metastases. And why is that number so high? Early detection of metastases, which are done by, with circulating tumor cells, are the markers for that. But what are the strategies right now to detect those things? There's not anything that's really good out there that detects circulating tumor cells.
So kind of expanding on the problem statement a little bit, like, this is why it hurts so bad.
Yeah. I mean, make us feel the pain.
But these are the numbers that I think are really, really key.
All right, let's move on to solution.
So this is a little in the weeds, probably.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a great graphic for it. It's hard to visualize.
All right, then we're gonna hold until we see the great graphic. You set an
Yes,
expectation.
exactly.
So,
I think this solution slide could basically just be a graphic of how it works,
okay.
and like me explaining it, because it's a simple concept. And I think if I can just visually represent it, it'll be a lot easier than using words.
Sounds good to me. All right, let's move on to UVP then. Here again, I think you're going to need to do a little bit more explanation, a little bit more teaching about what these are and why the increased sensitivity in those things is a valuable thing. I believe you. I agree with you, but just to cover the audience type and the variety of people in that audience, you're gonna have to educate us a little bit more on this too.
I think this slide also lends itself to some metaphors too. Like if you need to, like explaining how things work through metaphor, like surface markers is like ID tags, that kind of stuff.
Perfect. If you can draw similarities to something that's every day, then that's always going to be good. I mean, you just talked about how significant it is. And so when we see something as simple as that to understand what you're talking about, that's going to allow us to, personify the value. Okay, actually, I don't think we need to go through the rest of the slides because the progress one, you just need more progress, and it can be very detailed as far as when any filings occurred or when any trials started or completed. Just try to put anything you can, at least 4 or 5
on a timeline.
Milestone points on the timeline. And this is for everybody. And Shelby can attest to this too. I'm sure Eric and Ryan have put this on a deck or at least talked about this. You are part of the Scipreneur challenge. You should put that on there. I always put, a Techstars or StartCo or whatever I was going through as an accelerator as something that I accomplished or was, involved in. So certainly put Memphis Scipreneur challenge on your timelines. It'd be great to see them on everybody's. No, that's not a hint. Maybe it is. Okay, I think this is great. It's 7:53, so I'd like to try to walk through these other 4 sections and add to your homework for the evening, for the week. So if we can just bear with me for another 10 minutes, I can get through these slides pretty quickly. All right, so I'm going to share now. All right, so everyone should see week 6 agenda. Okay, thanks, Ron. All right, so we just went through the pitch. These are the skipped elements we talked about last week. First one is the go-to-market strategy. We actually took some things out in a few of your presentations. When I say took them out, meaning like, hey, we isolated those. This is where you put those in, right? So, some of this is on these next 3 slides is where you're going to take some of the things we said aren't appropriate there and put them here. How will you get your solution to market? So this is through pharmaceutical companies or through any other third-party value-added providers or retailers, depending on what you have. Your tummy time situation is going to be sold, in Babies R Us and stuff like that, as well as in the pharmacy or the gift shop or the baby shop in hospitals and doctors' offices. They'll be prescribed. They could even be prescribed in that regard with doctor's office and pediatrician. So you're gonna have a variety of different places that you can actually have your product available to the market for tummy time. For some of the more scientific type things, it's going to be a little bit difficult to necessarily say we're going to go. Difficult. I should say impossible to say we're going to go sell this in the open market. No, you have to sell it through this channel. It has to go through the healthcare providers and the insurance companies for payback. And this is where you'll put all that in there. So where your customers are and how you'll get to them, also about how you'll market to them, focus on articulating the non-obvious, potentially disruptive elements of your strategy, refer to data and insights wherever you can on potential purchasers or during your customer discovery. So who are your early adopters and how are you going to go reach that group? And what are the critical hurdles that the company faces and how will the company address them to get the sale? So this is all about how you're going to get your product to market, how are you going to get it into the front of the customer, both from a distribution perspective as well as a marketing perspective. Now, back to the distribution perspective, Please don't put in there, this is going to come over from a slow boat from here, or, I mean, it's not about supply chain kind of information, especially with its audience. But it is certainly about, you know, the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance providers, the healthcare providers, you know, all of those in your downstream or outbound channel makeup that you did with your in the canvas. That's what you'll put here. So the next part is how you're going to make money. So this is your business model. If you can get to the solution market, how will it generate some cash for you? How will you make the money? How are you going to price it? Explain the pricing, the costs, and why the company will be especially profitable. Make sure you know the key assumptions underlying your plan's success. Be prepared to defend them. Be ready to articulate sensitivity of your business to variations in your assumptions. So, I mean, this is all about, you know, really how you're going to make money. We're going to sell it in bulk. We're going to sell it in units. We're going to sell it to a third party. You know, this is all about, you know, where the money comes from and how it gets to you. This might be a little difficult for y'all to discuss at this point, right? It's going to be a little bit difficult to say we know exactly how much it's going to cost, because you know, going back to what Andrew talked about and breaking things down, you haven't really done that yet. We don't really have a lot of time for you to do that. So in this area, I think it's best to kind of talk about how you're going to generate the revenue and the money, but not necessarily spend too much time talking about what that money is. We're going to price it at this point. It's okay to say when you're giving these presentations that we just don't know yet. I wouldn't necessarily say I don't know, but you can say in a way of, we're seeking, even when you're asking for funding, we're seeking funding to get us to the next step of discovery. We're seeking funding to get us over 3 months of scientific research based off of cost structures and breakdowns and this, that, and the other, in order to get us to the point where we can answer these questions. So if you're not there yet to fully explain it, at least summarize the idea and then talk about how you're going to, you know, validate that idea through the next several steps of your process. Not every presentation you make are you completely ready to go to market, especially when you're very early on in the startup phase. So it's okay. It's better even to be honest and transparent of where you are, as opposed to making a bunch of just crazy assumptions or, you know, larger than life kind of expectations that no one's going to believe. Revenue model. This is where it's really going to be talking about, you know, the first 2 slides are how you're going to get to market, then how you're going to make money. This is how much money you're going to make. So assuming you get to market and assuming you make money, you know, what does that mean from a financial projection over time? How much of we talked about this at the beginning of the cohort about the total addressable market, the service addressable market, and the share of the market. You know, this is where you would put that information in there. Be careful not to say you're going to go capture 90% of a market, right? That's not going to happen, at least not initially. Maybe over time, that'd be great. But I guarantee you, if that's where you're heading towards, you're going to have competition coming in there and you're never going to get to 90%. So don't say this now, because there's probably no way of that happening. So be conservative. If you're going to bring that up about addressable markets, be conservative about it and realistic. Don't be overly aggressive and overconfident. All right. So again, this might be a little difficult. You're not going to necessarily know exactly how much you're going to charge, because some of y'all aren't even made it through the process to get to a point where you can break down the cost of what it would be to manufacture or distribute. So here again, you know, if this is an area that you spend the next week on that you cannot talk to, then between you and me and the teams and Erica and Ryan, we'll figure out a way to present this at that moment. But if you can figure out a way to talk about how you're going to get to market and how you're going to make money, the method, and then how much money you're going to make, I encourage you to do so, because it is going to be compelling when you're giving the pitch at the end of the session. And then the last one, again, and the reason I skipped these is because these are going to be most difficult to do. During this process, given the time we had, we spent a lot of time talking about the customer discovery side of things, the ideation side of things, getting to a problem statement, getting to a solution statement, talking about unique value propositions, obstacles, and so on and so forth. In the competitive space, we really didn't have time to go into depth about exactly what you need to get to a certain point. But that doesn't mean you can't put something in here if you have samples or examples, or can talk to other individuals that have been through that. So here, which we're asking for, could be somewhere in the order of magnitude of $25,000 to get us to the next 3 months worth of research so we can answer all these questions. I've seen that before, and I've seen a lot of people get that money. You can also say we need $300,000 for 6 months to 18 or 12 months worth of runway to get through our first set of clinical trials before we move into animal and human, or so on and so forth. So if you know what the next tranche is, the next section of the FDA process, you know how much that's going to cost, then do that. Then put that number in here. If you can make a guess, I mean, Isaac has always used the same number when we talked about that. You could ask Isaac whether he was spot on when he and Kayla came up with the numbers very early on. You can ask if it was not enough or too much. But when they first started their 3-year process, they marked out and tried to, and identified after their first, set of money, another $3 million over 3 different sections or 3 different tranches to get them through a variety of different things related to the 510 process. So, there are some benchmarks out there. You can look at your solution and look at those benchmarks. You can talk to people like Isaac and Kayla. We can hook you up with other individuals to kind of give you a basic information around what an ask could be. But in general, this is what it's going to, you need to understand what the details or what the individual pieces are, the components are that you need to break down in order to get to a cost base for each one of those things in order to have an understanding of what it's going to cost to get to market and how much you need to price your product in order to make profit. Right. And that's what, that process of getting from no profit, no product in the market to product in the market profit is what you're going to need to ask for to facilitate that runway. This is not a time to ask for $1.5 million. This is a time to ask somewhere between 25 to 50 and $350 to $400,000 to get you to a point where you can start the FDA trial or start the next phase of your thing. So again, think about what we talked about. Think about how to break it down. If you have a good understanding of what your financial need would be to get you to the next milestone, talk to your intellectual property owners, see if they've put any thought to that. If this is something that we need to spend time with on the next one-on-one sessions, 2 of which for each team, we can take care of this before the end of the session. But I want you to start putting some thoughts to it and see what you can throw at it. Okay, any questions about these 4 slides that we're going to work on next? Okay, homework. First of all, again, I appreciate everyone's extra time tonight. I thought all the pitches we saw were really, really good. There was a couple of teams that weren't quite ready. That's okay. But those should be the first teams calling out Shelby, Ryan, or Erica, or all of us together to get with you to go over your pitch. As we said, we'd like to spend 1 hour this week and 1 hour next week after the next session, session 8, with you individually as teams to help you get through this. So that will be more iterations and more practice and everything. And we'll continue to walk through these things. So after the session, get started on, completing the remaining slides as best your ability. Create your pitch script, which we talked about earlier as well, which is just how you're going to talk, what you're going to say along the way. Keep practicing, update your slides based on the feedback you got for tonight, and then sign up for those pitch review one-on-one sessions. Okay, as always, let us know if you have any questions after the session. You have all our email addresses, all our phone numbers. I know a couple of teams have already reached out and scheduled time. We're not going to have dedicated office hours tomorrow. If you want to schedule time and someone's willing to do that time, tomorrow's Good Friday. If anybody, for the Easter weekend. So I'll be back on Monday. I'm not going to be working tomorrow, but I'll be back on Monday. If anybody wants to schedule time with me to go over these things, just let me know. All right. Well, I'm going to stop the session now. I really appreciate everyone's time tonight. I thought the presentations were great. I mean, I know they were loose and only bulleted, and they were all on white backgrounds, and that's all okay, right? I think we gave you a lot of feedback, and I think what we'll see next week is going to be pretty significant. And I look forward to it. And by the end of this session, or the sessions that we have leading up to the final pitch, I have no doubt we're going to have some stellar presentations and a lot of people bringing home some cool goodies and prize money. All right, everybody. Thanks. And we'll talk with y'all soon.